Taro, the newest horror movie. Let's talk about it. So Taro is the newest horror movie that is on the big screen for you guys to go and check out. Now, this is a movie all about horoscope readings, tarot readings, using the cards to determine your fate. How would you survive? How will you die? That's what this movie is all about. Now, the trailers looked very promising. I remember seeing the trailers and going, okay, this is a unique thing that I would love to see. And this could have the potential to be one of my favorite horror movies if they deliver. Now, you guys know me. When I go into a horror movie, I'm looking for just some things. I'm not looking for an Oscar-worthy movie. I'm looking to be scared. I'm looking to be having that anxiety feeling. I'm looking to be on the edge of my seat. I'm looking to have that horror elements in the movie. When it comes to Taro, well, look, I was kind of disappointed in this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I think it's kind of a generic horror movie that I've seen before. I feel like the trailers gave away too much. I do feel like that. I feel like after sitting down watching it, and after seeing the trailers, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, here comes that scene. So I'm already ready for certain things. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. And they spoil a lot in the actual trailer, which took away from the film, personally, for me, because then I was like, oh, it's coming, here we go, not surprised, not anything like that. Another thing that I didn't like about this movie is the lack of actual horror in this movie. Now, what I mean by that is, we're dealing with entities that are killing people, right? We're dealing with that sort of thing. But everything happens off screen. You don't actually see any of it. You don't. So, like in the trailer, you see the ladder coming down. You don't see it. You actually don't see the ladder killing her. Then you have the hangman scene. You don't see anything to do with that either. It's frustrating because I feel like there's a really good movie here, but they just went, oh, I don't know if we should dive into that sort of stuff and showcase that. You know, we are a horror movie, but I don't want to dive into those horror elements and showcase the blood and gore that comes with this type of movie. Instead, let's cut away from it and let's hint towards the audience what happened rather than actually showcasing it. And that, to me, takes it down a notch, because then it just removes that horror feel for me, because I'm sitting there like, okay, am I watching this crappy PG-13 horror movies again? Am I watching Imaginary all over again? Like, I've come here to see death. You showed me in the trailers that there was going to be death, and yet I don't feel anything because I don't see any of it. And another thing that really annoyed me is you have this cool concept with these cards, right? And they read, and this thing comes to life. So, for instance, the hangman comes to life. You know, death comes to life. The devil comes to life. You know, what's what happens. It's so freaking dark for the majority of this movie that I don't really get to see what they look like. And it's a shame. The Fool looked cool, but it's so hard to make out what's going on because it's so dark and so far away. Hangman, I don't really get a good idea of what he looked like except for his face. The High Priestess didn't really get a great look. It's just everything is so dark in this movie. And I feel like that takes away from the edge as well. And this has a really cool idea and a really cool concept, but just was not executed well at all. And then we get to the characters themselves. Now, they try their best. I got to give them applaud for trying to develop the actual twist with the cards. We've given it backstory. They really tried to dive into that and give it some layers. I personally don't think it worked. I personally was like, okay, so it's just this, you know, I've seen that story before, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to care for that, but I've already seen something like that. So there's that. And then they try to develop the characters, but not at the same time. And in doing that, they kind of make the characters very unlikable. So I'm kind of like, I don't really care if they live or die. So I'm not really rooting for anyone in particular in this movie to survive. Now, they try to develop a romantic relationship between two characters in this film. To me, I never ever once felt like they were together or ever together in their whole entire life. I don't think the chemistry was there to pull off the romantic stuff between the actor and actress. A lot of it, and the performances themselves, they weren't great. They were okay, but that could be the direction and the writing as well, because the writing in this film, they didn't really have much to do with characters. They just kind of come off as like your typical teenage college students who just make dumb decisions that try to act smart in a way, and then like the ending itself is kind of predictable as well. Most of you that will see this movie will predict the ending and where we're going with all that. The music, the soundtrack, the score, I thought did a good job trying to elevate the scenes. Like, there was moments where I was like, oh, that was a really cool scene. Like, for instance, when you meet the hermit, there's this scene in the subway with the darkness coming towards. I thought that was shot really, really well, and I really enjoyed that whole sequence. I think that was probably my most favorite, was the hermit. That whole sequence with him, with that sort of creature, would have been my favorite. The moment where I felt more tense than the whole entire movie. Death could have been cool, but they just really didn't want to show you death and the devil. Like, those two things could have been, they could have been scary. They could have been insane. And then there's a lot of things where I was like kind of thinking to myself, timeline-wise, doesn't quite add up, because there's certain distances that they got to cover, and they seem to do it in one night at the end, and I'm like, okay, right, so that just happened, I guess. You know, they tried. I got to give them credit. They tried, but it kind of felt like they were stuck in between making a MA to R-rated horror and a PG horror. And they just couldn't find the middle ground where they're like, ooh, do we want to go MA? Or do we want to hold back and go PG? And they kind of landed in between, in the middle bit, and it didn't work. So you like, if you're going to do it, if you're going to do a PG-13, just make it a PG-13. Just do that. If you're going to go the M-rated, show me everything. Don't just give me a cut off screen of a phone with blood going over it. That's not what I come here to see. I come here to see a woman get beaten down by a ladder. That's why I'm in the theater. That's why I chose to see this movie. It's because I am expecting to see that, and that's what the trailers give you. But it doesn't happen. As for the story, it's a generic horror story. You guys have seen a movie like this, you know, a group of friends do something stupid that they shouldn't be doing, messing with stuff that they don't understand. And what happens? Obviously, they get cursed and shit happens. You know, we've seen this story before. It's nothing new. This isn't a groundbreaking horror. This is just one of those generic horrors that's just pumped out. And it's unfortunate, because I was hopeful after the trailers. I really was, but it just didn't land for me. Let me know in the comments below. Maybe it did land for you. So let me know what worked for you, what didn't work for you. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay safe and peace out.